So hey, just another mic here, and I haven't really been uploading a lot, at least on not a frequent basis, but I might have found a solution to that. For you see, I have been spending way too much dang time learning about Sonic the Hedgehog lore, and I want to make sure that time wasn't a total waste. So here's a theory I have on what exactly happened to the Echidnas. Because as you know, Knuckles is the last of his kind, and there's kind of a big question as to how the heck that happened, among a lot of other questions like, why is there so many different kind of cultural locales on Angel Island when it's so isolated? What's with all this technology like teleporters and stuff? Like, where did all that come from? There's many questions, and I think I have a theory that can kind of explain things. That's what it meant. It's still a lot of speculation, but it has a good foundation, I find. So here's my findings, and to start off, we'll basically go over what is pretty much considered confirmed canon from what we see in games like Sonic 3 and Sonic Adventure, and like, technically Sonic Chronicles, if you want to count that. There's a bit of a debate on whether that's canon or not due to certain people I will not mention right now. So without further ado, let's get to that. And if you already know about all that confirmed Echidna lore, I'll be setting up a timestamp for you to just skip ahead to the actual speculative stuff. Right, so essentially, like 4,000 years prior to the Sonic series proper, there was this time where you had this single larger landmass that both Angel Island and West Side Island were part of. Like, they're attached to the mainland, and a lot of civilizations lived there at the time. Some would be fighting for territory and all that stuff. And you had two very strong clans of Echidna in particular that were fighting over this area. So you had the Knuckles clan, which had great combat strength, and then you had the Nocturnes clan, which had great technological skill. So these two clans, they're fighting for supremacy, right? They're fighting over territory. And then one day, the Nocturnes clan come up with these robots called Gazoids. And these Gazoids are special because they're able to copy the moves of their opponents exactly and be able to replicate them perfectly. And because of this gave the Knuckles clan a bit of a disadvantage because now you had these robots copying their exact moves and using them against them on top of the more advanced technology that the Nocturnes clan already has to begin with. So as you can imagine, the leader of the Knuckles clan, Pachacamac, he's named after an Earth god or something, whatever. Pachacamac became desperate, so he started looking towards this one shrine over here with these Chow, which hold these what are they called? Magic stones, miracle gems. There was a lot of different names for them back then. He was looking towards these rocks and he was like, maybe I should use these rocks to gain an edge in the war. But his daughter Tikal was like, yeah, how about you don't do that, because I've been befriending these Chow and they have this guardian who you don't want to mess with, and yeah, just don't mess with the dang rocks, please. So of course he messes with the dang rocks. He assaults the place. She even gets hurt in the process. A whole bunch of Chow freaking die. And the Guardian, obviously pissed, grabs these rocks, goes Aqua Godzilla on the ass, and pretty much wrecks their entire city with flooding, tornadoes, and giant fuck-off laser beams. So yeah, the Knuckles clan has basically been freaking wrecked overnight, which is funny because like these gemstones have had legends about how people that use them would mess up an entire civilization and bring it to ruin overnight, which pretty much happened here. So out of like a last-ditch effort, Tikal, using the last of her strength, decides to use the larger Master Emerald, which controls the smaller regular ones, to kind of seal Chaos away so he doesn't end up like doing even more damage than he's doing already. Because like, you let this dude loose, he's probably gonna like mess up the whole dang planet eventually. So yeah, now Chaos is sealed away inside of the Master Emerald, and Tikal's soul is in there too now. And the aftermath of this somehow causes some sort of... it's something to happen. It's never explicitly shown. I'd assume there's probably like a surge of power from just having something so powerful sealed within the thing. But apparently, people that were around back then that survived had written down in like some tablets or like some old rings and such about how it might have been an act of the gods to like take this whole massive chunk of the land and just lift it high up into the sky, up into the clouds, never to be seen again. And that's pretty much how Angel Island was born. If you're wondering about the whole thing about the writing on the ring, it was apparently like a ring Sonic found, like prior to the events of Sonic 3. That says something about that kind of thing happening. Act of the gods, whatever. So yeah, that's how Angel Island became a thing and separated from West Side Island. As for what happened to the Nocturnus clan, well, they were pretty much unopposed and basically got so dang powerful that, check this, some interdimensional rift had appeared in the sky above their city. There was some sort of creature called Argus, like this tentacle monster thing, like these tentacles just come out of the rift, grab their whole dang city, rips it out of the ground, drags it through the portal, and the entire Nocturnus clan is never heard from ever again. They're just gone. All that's left is like a single Gazoid that somehow managed to not get caught up in that whole mess. So yeah, the Nocturnus is gone. Most of the Knuckles clan is dead. Whatever is left of them is just stuck on Angel Island now in the middle of the sky. And since they have no one to fight up there, well, they kind of just figured, well, nuts, guess the whole militarized thing ain't really gonna work up here, so they kind of just pulled down with that and stuff and decided to go the Guardian route, protecting the Emeralds, making sure no one messes with them and causes another freaking apocalypse like the one they went through. And that's pretty much why you have Echidnas acting as guardians, and why Knuckles, being the last of those guardians, is guarding the Master Emerald. So yeah, that's like the whole dang thing with all of that noise. As for those gemstones, well, they were eventually named Chaos Emeralds, since the guardian that fucked their shit up in the first place was named Chaos, so you kind of see how that connection comes in. And what else am I missing? Alright. Wait, there is some debate on whether or not the whole aspect of the Nocturnus clan should be considered canon or not, because of the whole situation with a certain somebody that I don't like talking about. Fuck that guy. But I still think it kind of works. I mean, you could say there was just generic enemies that the Knuckles clan were fighting, not the Nocturnus specifically, if you want to exclude that kind of stuff from canon, but either way, it doesn't really matter. Point is, the Knuckles clan got caught up in some shit, and that kind of led to like Angel Island being a thing, and then becoming guardians and all that stuff. Right, so with all that history stuff out of the way, let's get to the actual speculation. Now, as you can imagine, 4,000 years is a long time, so there's a lot of space to work with here. So, here's what I kind of have in mind. Let's say about a millennia or so into this, like 1,000 years after the initial Perfect Chaos incident that caused Angel Island to start floating. They come across another floating landmass. And some of you may see where I'm going with this. I'm talking about Babylon Garden. If you're not familiar with the Sonic version of the ancient Babylonians, they are... okay, brace yourselves for this. Alien genie bird people who ended up stranded on Earth after they had to jettison their gravity warping devices that they used for space travel when the engine to their ship had gone unstable and almost created a black hole. It's a whole thing. Now, since the Babylonians were a more nomadic, peaceful sort, they got along well with the Knuckles clan. They were collaborating and trading amongst each other in culture and stories, agriculture, technology, weapons, etc. And this led to various tools, such as the emeralds being used as a key to power Babylon Garden, should it be depowered or whatever. Angel Island's many teleporters that are scattered throughout the land. Many floating platforms that are artificial and have preset movement patterns that we see in places such as, say, Hydro City, or actually just the entirety of Sky Sanctuary, really. In fact, you could say that Sky Sanctuary was a collaborative effort between the Babylonians and the Knuckles clan, and that they built it together as sort of a melting pot of their two cultures. Because it does have like that whole retro look to it. At the same time, if you look closely, there's some sort of sci-fi element to it. Like the interior, as you see in the Generations version of the stage, there's like some Tron lines and such throughout the place, which you also see in Babylon Garden. So there seems to be some sort of loose connection there, I'd say. Now, in this time of peace, that probably lasted for many centuries, I'd assume, eventually there would be some conflict that arise. You'd have, of course, some thieves stealing some stuff, you'll have some people fighting, you know, your typical society problems. And many would be quick to assume things about stuff and start pinning these acts on the other race in the general sense. You know how it is with that kind of nonsense. And this will cause like a rift between these echidnas and birds instead of just finding the troublemakers among them. Relations start breaking down, and you have some words like savages and thieves being thrown about until eventually the Babylonians are like, screw this noise and leave. But that doesn't really solve the problem, so you still have like fighting within these two groups happening anyway. Now on the Babylonian end, you'd eventually see like a split in groups, and this would lead to types such as the Babylon Rogues that are well known for stealing, and the Battlebird Armada, which is like heavily militarized and stuff, like fighting anybody. And yeah, there's still some of these bird people like around to this day, but like the city itself just is sunk like deep into the depths of like some desert somewhere. Now they call it like sand ruins. Meanwhile, with the Echidna side of things, there'd be somewhat of a splinter in their mindset of the groups. Some would strictly stay to like the old ways of their ancestors, while others would kind of take to this new technology that they have learned from the Babylonians and kind of find ways to leave the island and come back in order to travel to the surface world and explore the rest of the planet, see what else is out there besides just their own stuff. And this is how I lead into like the whole deal with how Angel Island has all these different kinds of locales throughout the island. Because then you have like these like nomads that are just traveling the globe, and thanks to like the technologies such as like the teleports and stuff, they'd be able to like find a way to get like back and forth, such as like the hover technology and all that stuff in order to get around. Now, when these nomads return to Angel Island and start adapting these new cultures into their land, this would cause further tension with the traditionalists that want to stick to the old ways. And that's why you have like these very different kind of environments throughout the land. Like some have the whole Mayan aesthetic going on. You see like Hidden Palace, Altar Emerald, like the Chronicles version of Angel Island. You see like there's a very Mayan aesthetic there. But you also have like a more Egyptian kind of look with places like Sandopolis and Chaos Angel, even like Wild Canyon, Dry Lagoon even, Desert Palace. Pretty much like all the desert areas in SA2 really. It's like very Egyptian. And then you have like other places that have like very different kind of locales. Like you have a very Greek aesthetic going on in places like Marble Garden, Hydra City, Launch Base, Advance 1 stages from Angel Island. Then you also have like some... how should I put this? There might be some medieval Europe stuff going on, like high up in the mountains. Because if you look at the if you look around in the SA1 version of Ice Cap, there's like windmills and stuff, and that wasn't invented until like the Middle Ages. So there's some ideas going on there, especially when like you look at Red Mountain and there's like some tombstones inside the volcano that clearly have like some of them having like a very Christian kind of look to them. So there's like some ideas to like what's going on there. Like were some of the people living in the mountains like adapting some different kind of deity worship stuff than the others were doing, because you could see some tension happening there. Okay, but this last one I think would be very debatable. It's about Carnival Night, because it's a very modern looking city, which is very out of place compared to everything else, which is like more old school aesthetics from like way back in the day. And many would assume that, hey, Eggman's there, maybe he just built it, but you already have him preoccupied repairing the Death Egg and trying to kill Sonic and all that stuff. So there's a bit of a question, like, would he really have the time to build an entire city on Angel Island while he's already busy trying to fix the Death Egg? I'll leave that up to you to decide, but I personally think that, at least as far as like the whole city in the background is concerned, maybe that might have been like the last kind of thing that the Echidnas started building before they eventually just died out and it was just Knuckles. At least that's my guess. Because like, why would Eggman build a whole city? I mean, the man's already busy trying to like repair a whole dang space station as is, so where would he have the time? You have like some ghosts that show up in some areas, and I think there might be some explanation for that too. For the ones in Red Mountain, I would suspect that those were people who found teleporters and used those to find their way up to Angel Island. And since they aren't exactly welcome to outsiders, they obviously like imprison them, and now you kind of just see their ghosts hanging around in their cells in SA1. As for those that weren't like forced in chains and such, you would imagine that some probably like help further the technology that was there, gain advantage when eventually like a war breaks out between the Echidnas. Like some that want the more modern stuff, some that want to go back to the more retro stuff. But eventually this all kind of just leads to the whole civilization kind of just coming to a downfall anyway through an unseen enemy. And this is where I might lose some of you might think this is kind of dark, but I think it's kind of fitting in a messed up kind of way. But I'm gonna go for it anyway. Disease. Now I know what you must be thinking. Mike, disease, really? The Echidnas are gonna die off from disease? Well, I think it's not really that far-fetched. You see, here's the thing. They were isolated for a long time. Like, there was no one else around them, right? It was just them in the sky, isolated. And while you could debate, like, why wasn't that happening earlier when the Babylonians came into the picture? Well, again, like, they were aliens with advanced technology. For all we know, they probably had, like, some means to counter that with, like, some disinfectant type of thing or whatever. It's freaking alien bird genies, man. Who knows what kind of ridiculous shit they could have done all the way back then. And we already had a rival clan of Echidnas building freaking robots that could copy your moves like they're goddamn Kirby. So it's really not that far-fetched. And here's how I see it. See, with all this involvement, from the nomads getting involved with people in the surface world and intruders finding their way onto the island through teleporters that were hidden that they still managed to find anyway, and subsequently getting imprisoned for intruding on their territory, the Knuckles clan was, as a result, interacting with a lot of outsiders, willingly or not, and because of this they would interact with people who may have been carrying some sort of disease or illnesses or what have you that might have been very easily transferable person to person. And since they haven't been involved in all that's going on down on the surface whenever it comes to that kind of stuff. Their bodies probably weren't quick to adapt to the kind of illnesses that are going on down there. You know how it is with freaking viruses and germs and stuff. Those things mutate like crazy. And I don't even have to be making this post-COVID for y'all to know that. Like, common cold can mess you up, let alone freaking COVID. So it's kind of just common knowledge. Point is, due to all this stuff, even with what medical knowledge they might already know, the Knuckles clan would eventually be coming to a downfall because of this illness that's befalling their people. Like, to the point where they might even come back together instead of doing all this infighting and whatnot, because, like, if they're all freaking dying, then what's the point in having this war if the illness is gonna kill them all first, you know? So, here's how I see what went down. Years are passing, less echidnas are living long enough to produce offspring, right? And as they're going, there's probably like a few left, and as the numbers dwindle, they still try to like pass on their traditions, and they're afraid to even let any outsiders in to even help with this kind of illness situation, since they don't want people to find out about the island. They don't want people finding out about the emeralds as a result of that, because, like, what if someone tries stealing them and ends up doing something stupid with them? Don't want that shit. So, because they don't want to compromise the island and the emeralds, and some of them might still be xenophobic because of all this stuff that happened and them getting the illness from outsiders in the first place, they kind of just kept to themselves and were gradually dying out. Makes me kind of messed up, but like, is it really any more messed up than stuff that already happens in Sonic games? Like, really? Plus, you kind of have to have some kind of reason why there's only Knuckles left by the end of this. So as you can imagine, eventually, you get to like the last few generations until eventually you just have like the very last Echidnas teaching like little baby Knuckles over here about like how to read Babylon scripts, like hieroglyphics and whatnot, how to use the island's technology and traps, and how to read about this prophecy thing and all that stuff before they eventually die. And I guess like maybe by the time Knuckles was born, the last of them probably had like some level of immunity, eventually like herd immunity from this stuff, which is why Knuckles isn't just having a coughing fit or whatever, because like, I mean, obviously like they had to adapt eventually. Maybe it's not like an overnight type of thing, but like, you know, when you're around something long enough, you kind of grow used to it. And granted, some stuff can end up killing a lot of people, obviously, but like, given enough time, body tends to adapt, I guess. So yeah, you just have Knuckles left, the fighting freak, the bloat thrower, and the planet flower master emerald holder gives you the coldest shoulder to spike to go through boulders. You know how it is. And that's pretty much my whole theory, more or less, on what happened to the Echidnas. Might not be the most climactic type of thing, I know, but I mean, it's something. Would explain why Knuckles is the last one. Would explain why Angel Island looks the way it does with all these crazy different places on it. I think it was kind of interesting. It's like, really, you have cases like Sonic Riders where Knuckles can actually read the Babylon hieroglyphics, and it's like, how come he knows how to read that? It's not just, it's like he's lived on Angel Island all of his life. If he never really seen the outside world, how would he know how to read this entirely different language unless perhaps the Babylonians were involved with the Echidnas at some point. And the fact that Sky Sanctuary has some aesthetic similarities to Babylon Garden, I figured would kind of make a nice connection there, you know? So that's a whole other thing. Either way, regardless of your thoughts on the matter, I think that this sort of works, like in theory. It doesn't have to be confirmed canon, though I would be kind of impressed if it were. I mean, it would be pretty cool, not gonna lie. But considering how they go with Sonic canon these days, I doubt that's ever gonna happen, but yeah, man can dream, right? So, that's pretty much all I got for that. Thanks for watching. You know how to do the YouTube things. This ain't your first rodeo. I mean, come on, like, whose first YouTube video ever is a freaking Sonic Theory video? No way that's happening. You know what you're doing. I'll leave it up to you. So yeah, might make more theories like this in the future, perhaps. Maybe some other franchises entirely, even outside of video game stuff. I'm open to suggestions even. Who knows? So yeah, that's all I got, and I'm out.